from studio one, we said we are going to have the best coaches in the world. We're going to figure out how to find them, how to make this place where they want to be for years, how to pay them, the best. So there was a huge commitment to both the product and the coaching. And then a through line through all the brands is incredible attention to making sure we're selecting the best locations, that we're
Mhm.
providing world-class support, data and analytics behind location selection, data and analytics behind the marketing plans, the operational plans, that we're using the cutting edge tools to bring the system to life. Most of this success is because of the teams that have been around me, or the teams I've been able to build. And I think speaking with like conviction and being just authentic, and people knowing that there's like just a true drive and of excellence, having this curiosity and asking questions about how things work. How does the business model work? How do you solve this or that? At Massage Envy, the founder there, the CEO there, because there was so much learnings that happened during that it was not that long of a period. It was like 4.5 years learning so much, and also a brand
Mhm.
going from basically scratch to being, almost $1 billion business.
Welcome to the Smart Venture Podcast. We're here to bring you the latest and greatest from the Silicon Valley, where unicorns roam and innovation never sleeps. We've got top investors, superstar founders, and well-known tech executives lined up to share their secrets on building and investing in successful companies. Just a quick disclaimer, while we may sound like financial geniuses, but please don't mistake us for your friendly neighborhood financial advisors. So let's get started and dive into the wild world of tech entrepreneurship. Hi, Dave. Thank you so much for coming on the Smart Venture podcast today.
Hi, yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you were growing up in Florida and then you worked at a nutrition center. And through the nutrition center, you kind of got an exposure to the franchise space. And to start the show, I would love for the audience to get to know you a little bit more from your own perspective. What are something that, happening early on in your career that kind of shape you into who you are today?
Yeah, so I mean, I was the kid in high school that was already kind of training people, strength training
Mhm.
and doing things. And I like basically my first job was at a franchise GNC. And
Mhm.
at the time, I don't think I thought about it, but I was getting exposed to franchising, like a small business owner who had opened a store, and then him and his wife opened a couple more stores.
Mhm.
When I went off to college, I worked for a different franchisee of the same chain.
Mhm.
So wasn't thinking about franchising at the time, but got exposed to it. And I went off to business school and physical therapy school, and kind of started on my career bouncing around, and then got tapped to help launch a brand called Massage Envy, which
Mhm.
was a franchise brand that kind of, a very, very new thing in massage. Like, massage was primarily spas in the US and expensive. And
Mhm.
so leveraging franchising and also, a membership model to make it more affordable, for consumers. So that was my first kind of formal foray into franchising. But again, like,
Mhm.
pretty much 10 years earlier, I'd been, exposed to it.
Like so Massage Envy is really successful. Like it's in San Francisco, it's in like everywhere. And then so it's like European Wax Center. And then sometimes like they're next to each other. I saw them next to each other in the Bay Area. So and then now Orange Theory, like which I love, I go like very often. Like I used to like after I gave birth to my 5 month old, now 6 month old, I've been
Yeah.
just going to Orange Theory every single day. I feel like it completely changed my mind about like how I work out. I used to like I've been using elliptical every single day since like 2014, but now like
Mhm.
after Orange Theory, I feel like it just really transformed my body and my mind because I'm like all constantly feel like the urge to like push myself. I used
Yep.
to just like I don't know walk, but like now I'm a jogger and then like I feel like yeah, it's like such a transforming behavior kind of like system for me. But anyway, so we'll get to there. But okay,
Yeah.
so you have some experience from becoming like you were the operator in these like brands. And then like for European Wax Center, you were the developer and owner. And then for Orange Theory, now you're the CEO, right? So can you walk me through the journey of like from someone who's like on the ground running a business or running like a particular store or like running operations to now like managing over like 1,300 different stores?
Yeah, and it's I've been just so fortunate. It's been a very when I look back, it's been an experience where I've continued to build on, things that have happened along the way. So, I was younger in my career trying to figure things out, got tapped to be a very central part of Massage Envy. And so,
Mhm.
when I went there was 4 stores, and and it was we're building a franchise system,
Mhm.
figuring out the unit level economics, how to provide a really good support systems for franchise owners.
Mhm.
And when I started there, I also ran the original, corporate owned Massage Envies. So to really
Mhm.
like right at the grassroots, understanding the business and the business model that then I could use later on when I was running, the operation.
Mhm.
And the couple of things that resonated that I then built on, one was I just quickly grew an affinity for franchising because
Mhm.
it's so rewarding and empowering to partner with business owners that want to own a
Mhm.
business, and then you give them the toolkit and the brand, and you give them all the parts and pieces, and they have to put a lot of effort in and
Mhm.
still be entrepreneurial, but they've got this roadmap, and they've also got a community, right? They've got the franchisor to support them as well as the other franchisees, which is super powerful. So that period of years is where it was a fast ramp of going from a handful of locations to well over
Mhm.
500, learning all the different parts of franchising and the components and how to
Mhm.
help build and scale a business and where were the areas that were really
Mhm.
important. And with the business model itself, one thing that resonated with me and that I think was a focus and helped make it so successful is, a spa, for example, does a lot of different
Mhm.
things, whereas we really aim to provide a really convenient and high quality product that was
Mhm.
also at an affordable price, so it would appeal to a much broader range of consumers. But focusing on one thing and doing it very well was
Mhm.
appealing and consistently delivering because it allowed us to scale really quickly and maintain good quality. And that's why
Mhm.
the brand exploded with growth. The tail end of that, I also was able, with the support of the founder of that company, to be a franchise owner and area developer for Massage Envy.
Mhm.
So I simultaneously was, again, wearing that franchisee and developer hat of like, what's it like to, there's one thing to be at the franchisor and be at the corporate level, and not have
Mhm.
ownership or skin in the game. It's another thing to put your own dollars at
Mhm.
work and then be the franchisee. I was
Mhm.
fortunate enough to be able to wear that hat and learn like, okay, now I'm the franchisee, I'm the developer. I'm owning and operating my own stores. I'm also selecting franchisees in my marketplace. In this case, it was the entire state of New York.
Mhm.
And so that was a fantastic experience to be able to kind of see both sides of the coin and
Mhm.
understand what was really important. The tail end of that, transitioning from being at Massage Envy corporate, my
Mhm.
partner and I helped launch European Wax Center. So again, it
Mhm.
was it was a founders that had a really good business model. They'd already started to build a strong brand,
Mhm.
but they had to build the franchise system. How do you scale it? How do you build the team? How do you focus on the correct things? Again, it was a really interesting concept in that it was just body waxing, which had never been
Mhm.
done standalone. It was always part of a spa or a salon, it was an ancillary service, and they had
Mhm.
taken it and made it the flagship service. Because it was such a focus on just that, they were
Mhm.
able to do it faster, more effectively, and more cost effective. So the business model took off, and it created a really, really great value. I took, all the learnings from Massage Envy and even early days of GNC and applied that to really help them just grow a brand really quickly. And again, to
Mhm.
maintain the quality. And I think whether it's a franchise system or an own system, most times they fail because as it scales, you lose the quality consistency and you
Mhm.
you lose the foundation of what makes a business successsul. And then it starts to fall apart as it scales.
Mhm.
And fortunately, focusing on the core things, we scaled that business actually faster than even
Mhm.
Massage Envy. In the middle of that, my passion has been fitness and wellness, and that's, and supporting people on that journey. So I got just a real itch to, hey, could we just do something ourselves from scratch? We had really good runs with founders and grown these businesses, but it felt like a calling to is there a way to deliver something of high value in the fitness
Mhm.
space? And there's a lot, right? There's so much that's out there.
Mhm.
Even this is back in 2009. There's all types of offerings and
Mhm.
things. But we crossed paths with our co-founder, and now it was this kind of the last step in the journey, right? It was gone from pure corporate to being a franchise owner to then being kind of a hybrid to now we're gonna completely birth the brand from scratch and
Mhm.
be able to do all the fun, exciting things up front where you create the brand, you create the aura, the messaging, what it stands for. And so that's how Orange Theory came to be. We identified that this workout that was being done was the best thing we'd ever seen.
Mhm.
And now it was like, let's put our money where our mouth is. We believe it's the best workout out there. It's so science backed. the energy and the community, the things that you know so well by going, we saw that, and that was the aha moment. And then the question was, well, we like it, but will general consumers do it? So
Mhm.
let's open one. It was really an experiment. Now we did have in mind if we could make it very successful and we could figure out how to create the franchise system, we did want to franchise it. But first, it's like we have to open a location and prove out the concept. So
Absolutely.
that's how Orange Theory was born. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have so many questions here. Like one part is let's say like let's start from like within, right? So you as a leader, one thing that really fascinated me was, you grew up in Florida and then like it seems like, I don't know like what does your parents do, but like I wonder like how do you kind of like learn how to become an entrepreneur? Who is on your personal board of advisors when it comes to like career development? Because obviously you're very successful now. I wonder how do you kind of like build up this support system to help you grow into who you are.
I think I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I had started, I'd worked at nutrition stores. When I was in college, I set up a very early stage website to then sell the
Mhm.
products to all the students that would go home during the summer. I started a little window washing company with friends in high school. So my parents hadn't been in business owners, but they were super supportive around
Mhm.
you got to take the time and like you got to work hard, number one,
Mhm.
whatever you do, but don't be afraid to go on a journey and take the time and space to figure out ultimately
Mhm.
what you really want to do. Don't just blindly lock into a career for 40 years and that's kind of
Mhm.
it. So I had that good support. And I think I had a lot of curiosity around just exploring different things. I went to physical therapy school and I thought maybe I would just open a PT practice, but
Mhm.
something I wanted to just do something, kind of bigger than that. And so really along the way, it hasn't been a single person, but as I've come across the different companies I mentioned and different organizations, I've been fortunate. It's been quite a few people where I've been able to have like see like the right type of leadership behavior model, be able to go and just ask questions. I think like just that
Mhm.
curiosity and not being afraid to ask. I think I was good at different places I had worked, even for short periods of time, was having this curiosity and asking questions about how things work. How does the business model work? How do you solve this or that? At Massage Envy, the founder there, the CEO there, because there was so much learnings that happened during that it was not that long of a period. It was like 4.5 years learning so much, and also a brand
Mhm.
going from basically scratch to being, almost $1 billion business is having folks that you can go to, but then just in real time, just being aware and just taking it all in
Mhm.
and absorbing it, and then moving to the next thing. Again, had a group of folks. I
Mhm.
have like now we fast forward today for a number of years. I've kind of had like a special business coach advisor, and it's a
Mhm.
bit of your challenges and the questions and thing you have at this level are different than when you own a store somewhere. And so now
Mhm.
I have kind of more curated group that, a coach that I can go to that is used to dealing with these type of challenges and things
Mhm.
that come along, as well as I'm part of a group called Patal, which is a unique collaboration and support group. It's heavy on the brand and marketing side, and then it's also a bunch of CEOs. But again, it's folks that are best in class in their industries, and within that group, I'm kind of we're one of the smaller companies that are represented. And so now you get to tap into, Fortune 50 companies and all types of different experiences. So along the way, there's hasn't been one consistent thing, but it's always been consistently looking and reaching for the people that are doing it the best, and then just going and getting answers to questions that come up.
Totally. I think that's really interesting that, you started like actually you learn like massage therapy, like learn like physical therapy and then eventually you become like a full-on business person. So I feel like the skill set kind of like changed quite differently from the beginning. How do you identify what's your unfair advantage or like what is your unfair advantage? And how do you kind of like leverage that skill to grow your business or like grow your career?
I mean, I don't know if I have an unfair advantage.
You
I
have.
think I've had a good knack for one being like a really good steward of the brand. Like once you identify
Mhm.
what's important for a brand, for a company, one always trying to really be, leading by example and being super committed. I think I've been just really tenacious and driven when I'm in the brand, like Orange Theory has been obviously the ultimate one, but like even before that, just this living, breathing at 100%,
Mm,
and being really committed to seeing every part of it through. A lot of the success of, companies or brands, so much of it is just in the details and making sure that things are consistent, things are going right.
mhm,
And I think fortunately, for most of the success is because of the teams that have been around me, or the teams
mhm,
I've been able to build. And I think speaking with like conviction and being just authentic, and people knowing that there's like just a true drive and of excellence. And I think the one thing that the through line with most of what I've done is franchising too, is being ultra committed to franchisee success. And when,
mm,
when folks ask like what would ever keep you awake at night about the business? And really the only thing is we don't want to have franchisees that aren't successful, because
mm,
you have to respect somebody's taking a massive risk financially, a massive risk in their lives, or they're going to
mhm,
invest, put their trust in the brand and the people that are running the brand. And so I think through regardless of the stage and the brands I've been part of, that's been a really strong through line. And when I
mhm,
think about, to this day, if not daily, you know, weekly meetings and all staff meetings, we're always talking about that, because that,
mhm,
in a world of you're always trying to prioritize, initiatives and budgets, and what are you doing to improve the brand or grow it, or, just grow the company. That's such a powerful through line, because
mhm,
if our franchisees are successful, the company's successful. And if they're not, then the company's not. Plus just
mhm,
respecting the commitment. So that's been a really consistent thing. And I think we've been able to create that culture wherever we've been. So that it's also that, and that's probably the unfair advantage, is when somebody's in a role as at the franchise or at the brand level, and they see it as much more than a job. They see it as they're
mhm,
delivering something that's really going to help business owners that have put their money and be successful.
mhm,
That's the unfair advantage. It's not just they're just checking their boxes and going home. They're like really going the extra mile. And with franchising, the teams are often pretty small because
mhm,
most of it's happening out in the field. And
mhm,
so those teams are relied on a tremendous amount to deliver. And so it
mhm,
also creates an exciting environment for the right individuals, because their work makes a big impact on a very large brand.
mm. Okay, so let's jump into how you're like helping the franchise success, right? So I guess like one of the key question is like you have started like three or like you have like joined and like helped grow three like very, very successful brand. And what is like the core thing that they share in common? How do you identify what have the scalability? I wonder like if you're starting another franchise, how would you go about it? And then how do you identify what's a core thing that make this thing would be successful? And then you like a great operator like yourself would want to join this business to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's all about, value for the consumer and differentiation. I think it's been such a unique journey for me, because each time it's been kind of a newish category. Like when massaging entered the marketplace, there was nothing like it. It was basically a spa, or you try to
Mhm,
find somebody to come to your house. There's nothing in that
mhm,
category. So one, it was, I guess, riskier because it was a new
mhm,
category. But two, it was a blue ocean. It was ripe. If it worked, it was ripe for
mhm,
massive growth, which is what happened.
mhm,
So one, it's like having conviction behind that there's a product or service there that's going to be really valuable for a consumer, even if you're creating a new marketplace.
mhm,
And then with the way that we did it, then that obviously the unit level economics need to work in a franchise environment,
mhm,
and you need to have a franchise system that they can deliver and execute and have consistency.
mhm,
So that was that's kind of been the through line with that. And we just focused on doing massage for many years. The facials were added about a decade later, but in the beginning it was just that, and doing it really well. So there was a tremendous effort behind recruiting the best massage therapists,
mhm,
figuring out how to make that role in the system really good for them. If you flip to European Wax Center, was a very similar set of circumstances. It had not been done. That kind of service delivery had not been done standalone,
mhm,
with the great brand wrapped around it. Super, super convenient for people. And then attention to detail of delivering a really consistent service so that
mhm,
the value was there. And with that business, because the quality of the service also came with it's done faster. The consumer
mhm,
is looking for speed, as well as the business model works better when we have more consumers coming through the door every hour. Orange Theory was probably the the biggest, I guess, risk, because although our product was completely unique to the marketplace has always been flooded with fitness solutions, both
Mhm,
digital, at home, brick and mortar. People talk about digital or at home fitness like it's new, but it's been around for like 50 years. It's
mhm,
just the
mhm,
wrapper that is nicer nowadays. And fitness is always one of the most challenging segments, because it's just hard to get people to stick with the routine. It's just human
mhm,
nature. The world prioritizes other things over fitness. Anytime like a
mhm,
life change
mhm,
happens, fitness is the first thing that people stop doing. That's why right now, every year, people are like, it's January, I'm going to get going again.
mhm,
You just hope to maintain the consistency. But on the Orange Theory side, yes, it was a crowded marketplace, but there was such conviction around how much better this product
mhm,
was, even in the infant stages when we still had a lot of refinement to do. There was such conviction around it, and there was such focus on the product. When even in 2010, the workout was amazing, but it was
mhm,
like, we're going to make it better every single month. And then we fast forward 14 years, every month we aim to make the product better, that next month be better. And it's the same thing with the coaches, as you know, unlock the experience and create an
mhm,
incredible experience. They have all the foundation of the technology, the heart rate monitoring that makes it all work. But as you know, the coach brings it to life. So
mhm,
from studio one, we said, we are going to have the best coaches in the world. We're going to figure out how to find them, how to make this place where they want to be for years, how to pay them, the best. So there was a huge commitment to both the product and the coaching. And then a through line through all the brands is incredible attention to making sure we're selecting the best locations, that we're
mhm,
providing world-class support, data and analytics behind location selection, data and analytics behind the marketing plans, the operational plans, that we're using the cutting edge tools to bring the system to life. And that, there's brands that can scale really quickly and sloppily, and then it's kind of a house of cards.
mhm,
Whereas we're like, yes, we'd love to scale quickly, but quality is much more important, because
mhm,
I think we focused on really with all the brands, we focused on all the most important areas.
mhm,
When the growth took off, we were able to scale and consistently deliver a product. And quite frankly, the part of the fast scaling that happened at Orange Theory actually accelerated the product and innovation, because we had talented franchisees opening a lot of stores, lots of feedback, lots of innovation coming from the field as well as internally. It created this really exciting cycle from like 2014-ish to 2019 was just incredible. We opened over 1,000 locations,
mhm,
and we advanced all parts of the Orange Theory product simultaneously. Usually with the rapid growth, it's hard to keep up with the growth, let alone actually improve, because of the veracity and commitment of everybody involved with the brand. It was all happening at the same time, and it was like, we look back today, it was just an incredible time to be part of a brand like that. But it all started with the commitment to the right things that I mentioned.
mm. Okay, so so let's do an exercise as like, let's say you and I are starting we can start a gym again, we can start the wax center, we can now start massage stuff. Okay, let's start a coffee shop, right? Like let's start something more casual. What is like the three steps that we need to do to compete with like a giant chain?
I think it was something like, it's funny, I think about coffee shops all the time.
Mhm.
But
Oh, great.
well, I mean, you go, I mean, I'm sure you've been to a single unit coffee shop that's just incredible, right? And then you've probably been to
Absolutely.
some that
Yeah.
you've been to some that
Mhm,
Starbucks is better. And that's kind
mhm,
of the way I look at it. I feel like, you know, there's such a scale and affinity to Starbucks, and they kind of created I think they've done a lot what I talked about with what we've done in the brands. They were figured out how to scale, but they had an incredible attention to the right details, right? It's
mhm,
really all about the baristas and getting the orders right, and being
mhm.
and mass customization.
So you
Yeah.
mentioned a really good point about like, the coach, the location, the marketing
Yeah.
and the tools and like data behind these things, right? Like so in terms of like you just mentioned about like, barista is something that we should look at. But I feel like when you mentioned like Grace, like what is a good coffee shop? Like I think about there's a coffee shop I went to in Vegas. It's like really beautiful. It was really beautiful, but like, do I see this beautiful coffee shop everywhere? Like never. So because I feel like there's really unique like there is a basically like I don't know like diamond peacock or something in the middle of the coffee shop. Imagine having that in like everywhere around the world. That's like kind of impossible to copy. So and then not now even talking about like barista, but like I feel like what are like three characteristics that you would look at if it's a coffee shop to kind of like pay attention to think this thing can scale.
If and I was thinking about that because I think there's a strategy if you're like I want to have five of these in certain
Hmm.
locations
Hmm.
where you can probably spend more on startup costs and spend more on marketing versus the strategy of I need hundreds or thousands of them.
Hmm.
I mean I think if you're asking about like full scale, I think obviously the table stakes are you have to be really good at location selection and
Hmm.
see where the gaps are in the marketplace because
Hmm.
even with all the existing players there's always a gap. And then I think it's obviously the other table stakes you have to have incredible consistency
Hmm.
and service delivery. But then I think it's picking out what are just one or two things of how you're going to be differentiated, one or two things that are going to be, and I think of, you know, some of the coffee shops that had Nitro first and had a
Hmm.
big following because of that. And of course, Starbucks picked it up. But for a period of
Hmm.
time, there was a new product within the category. I think if you're thinking about something that's so prolific like coffee, you've got to identify one or two things that are going to be differentiated within that are going to draw consumers to change their behaviors,
Hmm.
right? Because at least what I've seen, if something new opens, people are going to go try it, and so
Hmm.
you have a huge opportunity to retain those consumers, right? Like
Hmm.
you open it, you have some sort of marketing draw that you're getting people through the door, some sort of big loss leader that you're going to get hundreds of thousands of consumers say, why not try the new X in
Hmm.
town? And then I don't know what the exact answer is, but there's one or two just nuances that have to be there so that you're drawing them back.
You like you went to the gym, you basically try out the product before you collaborate with the original creator of Orange Theory, right? So you went to
Yep.
the gym and then you see this like NFL off-season player, and then there was a 70 years old grandma. So I wonder, like at this point, what do you discover as the insights or like as like the one or two thing that will differentiate Orange Theory among,
Yep.
the Equinox or whatever everybody else in the
Yeah. I mean, the aha moment, like I mentioned, is that the workout is so effective and that it can reach such a broad demographic. So that was the aha moment. We're like the marketplace is really big because this isn't like all super fit 26-year-old people. This is
Mm-hmm.
age, fitness level, gender, all of it was kind of up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
And very early on, and we call it the trifecta, but it's really four things. The three foundational are the programming has to be the best in the world, the science
Mm-hmm.
backed programming. And it can't just be fun and entertaining. It has to be science backed. And we've never wavered from that from the
Mm-hmm.
inception, from the first studio.
Mm-hmm.
We know that making progress and getting micro wins, as well as a coach being able to support them and progress them, you have to track. It has to be tracked, and that's where the technology tracking, the heart rate monitoring, tracking on the rower and the treadmill that and more to come in that area too of how we're going to be able to track even more in the studio. You have to do that. If you want something to really stick with the routine long term, you have to track it so they can see progress and always be reaching for something, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
minuscule. It's science backed, the technology tracked, and then it's brought, like I mentioned, it's brought to life by the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And the coaching motivates, inspires, brings the workout to life, creates the relationship. What sits over the top, like an umbrella of all that, is the communities that are formed at every studio and the global
Mm-hmm.
community we have. So every studio's got this community, but then as you visit another studio, you go and get enveloped and
Mm-hmm.
welcomed into their community. And it's different. There are
Mm-hmm.
differences of how the people are, what happens. The workout and the experience is the same, but it's a unique community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that, that was semi-intentional. We knew it was important to be warm and welcoming and supportive. We didn't realize, I think, the how big the community was going to end up being part of this until we started opening more stores and being in different regions. But that kind of sits over the whole thing, and that's where I think there's just such mass differentiation between what we do and anybody else. Is that, of course, there's other competitors out there that have some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody delivers that trifecta and then just has such a relentless focus on authentic community sitting over the top of it. And that's why still to today there's nothing really out there like what we're doing.
Totally. I wonder, I feel like you mentioned like three things, right? Like program, like which is like science backed, and then you mentioned about like creating a great, really solid community, and then brought to the experience is brought to life by the coach. So there's like the coach part too. So as a CEO, like how much time and resources are you spending into investing in each category? Like the coach, the
Yeah.
location, the science, and the community building.
I mean, most of the franchise or organization is focused on
Mhm,
that. So like our biggest kind of departments are the broader it's technology and product
mhm,
department, and the
mhm,
fitness teams sit within the product department. So it all can be delivered as one big experience, because then you've got everything that happens on the mobile app, both
mhm,
booking when you're looking at results, and there's a lot more we're gonna deliver there. And then that bleeds into what happens within the four walls of the studio, what's on the screens, the challenges. Like
mhm,
it's all one big experience that the consumer sees.
mhm,
What you see on the website. So the bulk of the team is focused on iterating and continue to advance that experience. And there's a maintenance part of it too. But as you know, every month you have a whole new set of programming that goes out worldwide that has to be
mhm,
delivered. And then any given month you have things like Hell Week, like I saw
mhm,
your
mhm.
completion
How
shirt, which
t-shirt,
is
yeah.
awesome.
Mhm,
And then the other big, department is really ops and learning and development. So then all
mhm,
those things have to be integrated, and some of it is digital, so we're directly pulling it all the way through, and then a lot of it obviously is activated at the franchise or store level. So you have operations team that does the implementation of that out to
mhm,
the network. And then the learning and development is all the different roles at the studio have robust learning tracks. So there's really this evergreen learning track. And when you talk about the coaching side there,
mhm,
like coaches in general have to get continuing education units to maintain their expertise in what they're doing. Our education has become so advanced, they can actually just consume our ongoing education, and they earn education units that work towards their certifications that they keep up. So
mm,
that's the other big department, because so much of it is the maintenance and advancement of having studio staff be positioned for success, because they're trained, they know how to
mhm,
execute. The goal is, there's a lot of, it's the analogy of like the ducks calm at the studio, but the feet are like paddling really quickly under the
mm,
water. The goal is you empower, the technology needs to work, and the staff is trained really well so that they're doing their job as automatic, because the goal is that they're engaging and having relationships with the members, right?
mm,
If they're struggling to do their job, then they're not engaging with you. But if they know what they have to do, they're fantastic at being a coach, then it's about having fun. Then they're inspiring a group and having fun with it and getting that rewarding. That's the
mhm,
goal, is how do we provide such a great baseline of execution that people want to come work at Orange Theory. They want to be in the studio. They want to have fun being there. It's still
mhm,
work, but I think that's the unlock to it, as well as, I think we have something like 25,000 employees out at the studio level. And there's a lot of people that have to be prepared to do it. And just
mm,
a lot of folks that you have to go out in those communities and find the best people to be part of the studios. That foundation is just super critical, because without it, the whole thing would crumble.
mm. I feel like you have built such a solid foundation within the entire Orange Theory ecosystem. So from like, the tech and the product side, as well as like, the maintenance, the manager. And like I don't even know how you manage so many, like the over 1,300 managers, because I feel like my manager, like in our gym, the manager is like really, really dedicated to it. Like, people have to wake up at like 4 a.m. and then be really pumped at like, opening up the store. And then, the 5 a.m., 6 a.m. classes are all booked out.
Yep.
I mean, I don't really know if it's because I live in Silicon Valley, everyone's like a A player all the time. Like they have to be like this overachiever person or whatever. But like, I go to the 7 a.m. class and I feel like a B player in my gym. So I wonder like how do you kind of like maintain the quality of each gym? And how do you select the manager to kind of like let them, create that really unique experience within their community?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with, it's two things. So it's real focus on the franchise system, like the operating system, like, what are the things that need to happen so the studio can operate like that. And when we, most of our franchisees have been with us for years. Like it's
Mhm.
a franchise base that's mature now and has built the muscle. So, but if you think back of early days, like a new franchisee comes into the system, they go through an entire week of training.
Mhm.
And so these are the things that are being talked about. Like, what are the foundational, most important, critical things? What are the technology resources and learning and development resources? Where do they get them? How do they go, how do they go run the store?
Mhm.
So then you have a scenario where they're empowered to know what's important, know what to focus
Mhm.
on. And there's just a very detailed playbook for them to go out and execute.
Mhm.
That trickles down to, again, there's just a massive toolkit that they have for the studio manager. So they know what are the characteristics to go hire, what the experience, then they're bringing in that management level, and there's a very robust training system and roadmap that they follow.
Mhm.
And likewise for head coach, and then
Mhm.
for the coaches and the front of the house, customer service reps. So the system only works because the whole foundation's there, and there's a relentless focus
Mhm.
on what's important. And now, because now it's almost irrelevant how many locations are, because the system's in place. Now we've
Mhm.
got, field teams that are supporting and integrating with franchisees and their leadership. Most franchisees now own an average of 5 locations. So now
Mhm.
there's a layer of, say, a regional manager or GM that sits over the top of the studio manager that you probably know. They interface with larger regionals as well as our
Mhm.
field team. So there's a whole system in place to be focused. And then it really comes down to also creating excitement and communication. So we have monthly webinars for fitness. So all the fitness coaches are on webinars every month, learning about the upcoming programming, the upcoming events, sharing best practices, sharing wins, and it's a
Mhm.
community within itself. Same thing with studio managers, same thing with franchisees. So that's where, like, early on I spoke to, there's a lot of power behind building a brand with franchising, because you have a whole franchise network that also communicates and leans on each other, and they use technology to communicate as well as just traditional webinars and email communication. We also hold a massive annual Orangetheory convention every year that
Mhm.
franchisees and their
Mhm.
teams come to, and it's like one of the most incredible event I've ever been part of. It's
I
it's a
want to
learning
go. I
event.
want to go to this. When
So
is
yeah,
it?
so historically we've done events and we've had workouts. We set up a workout that holds 300 people
Mhm.
at the event. We do training there, and the attendees
Mhm.
work out. In some of the historic conventions, we've invited members to come take the workouts, to meet
Mhm.
Ellen, to participate in pieces of it. This year, we haven't finalized it, but we're contemplating having a member convention adjacent to the franchisee convention,
Mhm.
and some of it overlapping. So it's in the end of September in Nashville this year.
Mhm.
Uh, but we'll definitely let you know if we end up having members. We'd love to have you come out, or even not even to come out and attend one of the workouts. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, for
It's
sure. It
another piece
sounds.
of it's another piece of the puzzle where
Mhm.
everybody's coming together in real life,
Mhm.
collaborating, building relationships. And now if you're a head coach, you meet a couple hundred head coaches at this, and now you have this network that it's not just a digital relationship. You've met them, you spend time, you've taken workouts with them, and so that's created it replicates the community that happens with the members at the studio
Mhm.
level too. And so yeah,
Totally.
so it's a special part of it.
I feel like one of the magic is like because it's offline. So like a lot of people like picturing like in the future of like like gym community, people think about like online or whatever. But I feel like there's just something about the offline you can never really be replaced. I wonder, like, since you are very successful nowadays, I'm sure there's like entrepreneurs who come to you to ask for advice, investment, or whatever. Like, so I wonder when you're looking at your current sector, what would be like a company that you would put your money into? It doesn't have to be your direct competitor or anything. It could be just like in the franchise theme in general. Like, what is a new company that you feel like caught your eye?
I mean, obviously we have a wearable that's works perfectly and fantastic for within our
Hmm.
workout. It's really the unlock. And in
Hmm.
a world of, like, there's all kinds of other fancy wearables.
Hmm.
Um, the brilliance in ours is that it does what it needs to do in the studio, and it's really easy to use, and it's very consistent, and it provides the fidelity. But I've been kind of a fan and a student of, like, what's going out there in biometrics, and how are you tracking all
Hmm.
types of things. I've gone, a few years of wearing like a continuous glucose monitor to like
Mm-hmm.
optimize that, optimize nutrition, things like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
love all the kind of the emerging technologies of how do you, it's not to replace in real life fitness, but how do you
Mm-hmm.
improve the output by understanding how to optimize the rest of your life? Like the 1 hour workout's so important, but we call it the other 23 hours of the day. And it's very much how we think about Orange Theory is how do we, through partnership and integrations down the road, help to give more information back to members who want it on how to continue to improve other aspects of their life. We
Mm-hmm.
really see that people come into Orange Theory, they start with the program, they start to feel better, and then it's a catalyst. They want to do other parts of their life better. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing this work, they're getting the result, like, well, maybe I should try to eat a little bit better. Or I really need to. I'm sleeping. A lot of people sleep better when they start taking Orange Theory, but how do they just get better sleep in general? Because sleep's such an important factor, and I think the world's starting to understand how important sleep is. So for me, and it's some of it's connected to our work at Orange Theory, but also just personally, I love all the emerging technologies and thinking about down the road
Mm-hmm.
how very small, non-invasive sensors can track so much. And then how do you integrate that just to improve your life, improve your mental health? So, I mean, those are things that I think are really exciting. And with the lens of like how do we use that two-way data to improve the Orange Theory workout and improve people's results overall? Because it's ultimately about, you're giving it 1, 2, 3, 4 hours a week. How do you get the most out of it? So,
Mm. So you basically mentioned about like the emerging tech or like consumer hardware to a degree, like what can, what is an advice or what is a device that you can use to kind of like improve the current workout system? Do you see the hardware device come like throughout? Because I know that there's like the handband. I forgot the name of it. The monitor or like the
yeah.
heartbeat tracker basically. So I wonder like do you guys produce that in-house? Because like I feel like a lot of people just in my gym, some people just go with like the Apple Watch or whatever, right? Like so I wonder is it like a really important piece for the workout in general? And then do you foresee that to be the future, the hardware consumer device that's a part of the future of like Orange Theory or the workout journey?
Yeah, it is because I mean, and we do specifically produce it, and there's a specific reason because there's a lot of heart rate monitors out there, but
Mhm.
because the workout's got the running or power walking, the rowing, and all the floor exercise components, there's a really specific way that we need to monitor heart rate through the device so we get the fidelity. Because if you don't have
Mhm.
the great fidelity around it, and as you know, when you're doing the intervals, it needs to be
Mhm.
spot on because the more you take the workout, the more you understand that and know where you can push yourself and know how
Mhm.
you're progressing. So that's why we took that on, man, I think about 10 years ago because we really, again, we're like we stand for the best science back workout. We have to
Mhm.
get the heart rate perfect. And I don't know if you noticed, but once you take 5 classes with us with our heart rate monitor, we perfect and automate your heart rate zones based on your
Mhm.
own performance. And then we give the member the
Mhm.
option to choose that and it customizes it.
Mhm.
We're the only company in the world that can do that. And
Mhm.
because that heart rate monitor unlocks the data and we've now tracked almost 400 million workouts second by second. So we
Mhm.
have this rich anonymized database that allows us to make your heart rate perfect to you based on how you perform in the class. And as
Mhm.
time goes on, it continues to actually adjust and perfect even more. So I mean, I think there may be different directions we go on the types of hardware that we offer, but it'll always be grounded and it's got to be super high fidelity and it's got to work in all different components of the workout. It can't
Mhm.
kind of fall apart on the floor. So that's something that we're top. I mean, and then there's always, there's tons of other providers out there. So we're always talking about how and when do we integrate data at the member's choice if they want to understand more. That's something that
Mhm.
even this year you might start to see.
Mhm.
You just have more optionality of, like I've been wearing the Aura Ring for sleep tracking from its
Mhm.
like very early VC days. I think it's been 7 years I've been wearing it.
Mhm.
So I've got 7 years of HRV
Sleep
and sleep
data.
data and all of
Mhm.
that. And so,
Mhm.
over time, I've more manually tracked it to my exercise and other things, but we see the future where a lot of that unlocks in real time. And because
Mhm.
within the Orange Theory environment, we're tracking so much in such detail, we
Mhm.
have that unique, we're kind of the data anchor for people with fitness to where Now
Mhm.
you see your body's responding to that, and then you can see how sleep and nutrition, other things are impacting it.
I have like two questions associated with this. One is, what do you see as like the future of like how people working out? And the other question is like, you mentioned a lot about like, study the data and like, how to leverage the data to kind of like improve the workout space. So I wonder like what are the tech product or like the how do you currently pay attention to the tech ecosystem besides like, I'm sure like a lot of people reach out to you, but like how do you kind of like process what can be used within your company or your basically the Orange Theory ecosystem? How do you kind of like evaluate that can work or not work?
One, I think it's what's going to add value for the member. I think that's the North Star. A lot of
Mhm,
the work that we've been doing is around not just tech, but tech and then through healthcare relationships.
mhm,
We think there's a massive opportunity again because, as you know, there's so much data and progress tracked within the Orange Theory workout, and it's just the best workout for improving cardiovascular efficiency and
mhm,
all the most important things, to help people along their lives.
mhm,
We've got a number of relationships with healthcare providers where they subsidize or they have programs that if it's attached to like your health insurance, it actually
mhm,
pays for an Orange Theory membership. That's
mhm,
a very a territory we want to keep growing year over year. Our ultimate goal is that like everybody has the ability to have their Orange Theory membership either paid for completely or at least subsidized because
mhm,
the product adds so much, value for
mhm,
the member. And it's in turn, it's also valuable for if you're a healthcare payee or whatever you are a part of
mhm.
that
Yeah.
healthcare industry. So those are, and so part of that is also around the wearable technology and data piece. So you think down the road, you as a member say, I want to save 50% of my Orange Theory membership. To do that, all I have to do is check a box that I'm going to share my workout results with my healthcare provider, for just making an example.
Mhm,
It's completely in your control, but us figuring out how do we scale partnerships like that so that again, for a lot of consumers, the barrier for Orange Theory is the price. And we have to make the
mhm,
economics work for the franchisee. So, we're at a point where, as you know, every spot, every treadmill carries tremendous value because there's a finite amount of people that are fitting in the class. It's not like a big
mhm,
box gym. But if we can continue to empower our members or future members to leverage their healthcare provider that they're already spending money on or their
mhm,
employer, that is just such a massive opportunity because
mhm,
it's basically a win-win. And then part of that is through is there additional biometric data or things that and a lot of this is a long game. We know that it's not going to happen in 6 or 12 months, but over time, as people are looking at everybody's actions, and especially with fitness, nutrition, sleep, your actions have consequences over your lifespan. It's not what you do for a day here or there.
mhm,
It's like, what are you doing consistently over the decades of your life
mhm,
that really improves not your lifespan, but your health span, which is the common thing we
mhm,
talk about. It's not like how many years that you have. It's like how healthy, happy, and functional are you throughout the course
mhm,
of your life. And so
mhm.
that's where a number of years ago we came up with the more life saying that we use at Orange Theory is because it's about creating a longer, more vibrant life. It's not just a game to see how long you can live. You want to have high function. When you have kids and you have grandkids or you have things you
Mhm,
want to do when you're later in life, the work that you're doing today
mhm,
contributes to that. And so that's where
mhm,
this isn't like a long game of decades. How are we in that conversation of, okay, somebody enters Orange Theory ecosystem or just fitness in general when they're 25 and they stick with it over the course of their life, it's going to have a tremendous impact on both how their whole life unfolds and then later in life how they do from a health standpoint.
Totally. I really like what you said about like basically Orange Theory should be like partner with the healthcare ecosystem and then kind of like people instead of paying for gym, it should come out of your insurance to a degree. Like how do you launch an initiative like this? Like what kind of people do you have to go path through to get there? Is it like company by company, let's say like Google or Amazon or whatever, like started including Orange Theory into their employee benefits, or like how does it work?
Yeah, so we have an exploratory path where we are talking about going to like direct to companies and talking through that.
Mhm,
There's some aggregators out there that actually are doing that today. They're selling a more of a bundle, and then like an Orange Theory would be included in it. The most successful we've had is actually through some United Healthcare programs like the
mhm,
Optum and One Pass program, where it's not mainstream yet, but it's still millions of insured. And
Hmm.
so like today that program's been live already for a couple years,
Hmm.
and still ramping. There's another one called American Specialty Health that we partner with. They
Hmm.
they basically subsidize membership to Orange Theory through their program, and they have millions of insured lives. So it's can ultimately we want to get to tens of millions or the bulk of the insured, but we're starting with the groups that are kind of more cutting edge about it. They kind of see a longer game, or they have a structure in which it makes sense for them to take these swings. I think we've been fortunate because of how unique our product is, how science backed, how the heart rate's being tracked. That's giving us, I think, a first mover advantage
Hmm.
because we can just stand behind, even though we're a franchise system, but everything is so consistent
Hmm.
around the country and around the world, and the fact that we stand behind the product and delivery, that it resonates with those providers that are like, if they're gonna get behind something, they want it to be that type of upgrade, if it makes sense.
So I have a question about the other side of the partnership. So I'm sure there's a lot of like, because healthcare ecosystem is or healthcare system is really, I feel like it's more of like on the larger scale towards what I'm thinking because I live in Silicon Valley. It's a startup world. I'm sure there's some protein bar or like the new version of a Red Bull or whatever like come to you guys to be like, hey, Orange Theory, can I partner with you to launch my this, I don't know, mushroom protein bar or whatever. So I
Yeah.
wonder how do you decide what to partner, what not to partner, and why or why not?
Yeah, I mean, so we've kind of really historically we've taken an approach of kind
Mhm.
of less is more. We do kind of
Mhm.
very few of those partnerships, but and then there's this we just have really high standards, which I think you would expect. But like we've
Mhm.
had a kind of a single protein partnership with one that
Mhm.
we could stand behind the quality. It's a scent protein. We partnered with a bottled water company you might know called Path Water because the
Yeah,
bottles are
yeah, yeah.
reusable.
Mhm.
And we did believe that we want to get away from single-use plastics. And because, as you know, like people refill the bottles even within the class.
Mhm.
So it's a aluminum reusable wide mouth bottle. So and it's branded, so it's a kind of a
Mhm.
win-win. We have a branded bottle that people sometimes hang on to for a month.
Mhm.
So that's an example of one that's done really well. You might have seen it too because it also we bring it to life through activation. So there was a specific Hell Week bottle
Mm,
that we
yeah, yeah,
launched
yeah. Mhm.
when we have our convention that we talked about, we launch a specific bottle. But again, people literally save them and they have them all lined up.
Mhm.
So because it's such a passion brand, it's cool when you have like
Mhm.
an artifact that people will hang on to. We've done quite a bit of co-brand through apparel.
Mhm.
We're fortunate people love to wear Orange Theory gear, and it's fantastic because it is an
Mhm.
advertising medium. But consumers also have affinity for their brands. So we've done
Mhm.
Nike, we had active Nike, Viore, Lululemon, Beyond Yoga. Um,
Mhm.
we've done some even small brands like out in the West Coast. There's a small mountain
Mhm.
brand called Stio that we've done.
Mhm.
So we have the flexibility to do kind of localized things as well. If you go
Mhm.
into the international markets, they have their own set that they do
Mhm.
as well.
Would you consider to like I feel like a one thing that I would imagine if I were like, running a business like this would be launching my own like white label brand, not white label brand, but like launching my own like brand like well, instead of like Lululemon or whatever, I would launch Orange Theory brand. Like and
Yeah.
then also sell that as my own basically merch. So because I see people wear Orange Theory stuff all the time, like myself, I have the Hell Week T-shirt I have to
Yeah.
earn, and like I would just buy, like I would just like create some sort of like high quality athletic product, right? So I wonder why that's not like a thing that you have entertained, or like why that's not a thing.
It actually is. It's kind of a blend. We probably do a third is the co-branded with the bigger
Hmm.
names, and then probably two-thirds is our own private labeled athleisure. So,
Hmm.
and it varies. Some studios have less retail space so that you might not see it in every studio, but
Hmm.
then some carry a lot more. Yeah, I mean, then so there's kind of the event connected stuff like the Hell Week shirts, but then we do kind of a full line of athleisure, and we rotate
Hmm.
it. It will vary by studio. Again, some have more space.
Hmm.
We have a more robust online store through the mobile app where you can get all the gear. And then we
Mhm.
aim at some point to do more of a kind of a scan and shop so people can see
Mhm.
a sample and they can order it kind of one stop. So I think there's still opportunity for us to modernize that
Mhm.
because yeah, there is such an affinity for, for the Orange Theory gear.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I know that I saw some of these like in my gym, but I wonder why it's just like one of the strategy I would think of is probably create like just like launching the brand and then eventually as like a separate thing because I feel like the brand value would have a lot of like could just carry a lot of value because of people already working out there and then they have like emotional and like time investment into this brand in general. I would buy the brand associated things.
I think it's definitely on the road, but I think it's a natural brand extension. I think you're right. It's just one of those things where there's just been other priorities, but I think I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if at some point you would see more of that or see it in third-party retailers
Mhm.
because yeah, where we've been fortunate, there's such a affinity for the brand and positive halo around it. Even people
Mhm.
that have never been into an Orange Theory, it's rare
Mhm.
that if they know it, it's because they've heard like a passion story from somebody who's an avid member. And so
Mhm.
it does carry a tremendous amount of weight.
I have a 1 minute fire round for you. So number one is
Sure.
like, what's your favorite book?
Right now it's Outlive by Peter Attia.
Hmm.
I should
Uh,
you should read it.
okay, I'll read it. Who made the biggest impact in your career?
I think it's my co-founder and my partner and the other two entrepreneurs of their brands. Like being
Hmm.
around and seeing other entrepreneurs start something and then going that route eventually with my partners because that was really the catalyst.
For sure. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
You?
Thank you. I'm a popular answer, okay? Like, I'm just kidding.
I know I should have. Yeah, it's funny. I went to a dinner party in New York City where you didn't know who else was there, and you had to try to figure it out. There was like a
Mhm.
couple of more celebrity people mixed in, like,
Oh my
and
God.
I would probably send a bunch of random invites out to people and see who would show up.
Wow. Sounds like a really interesting dinner party.
Yeah,
Where can we find you outside of work?
I mean my either way, I mean, primarily with family with my wife and kids, but I mean my big kind of hobbies are surfing and snowboarding.
Hmm. And now cold plunge. I hear about your cold plunge story from other interviews.
Yeah. I've been cold plunging. I think before it was mainstream. I think I'm a little over 7 years cold
Your
plunging almost every
OG.
day.
Yeah, wow, like
Yeah,
7 years. That's a
yeah,
lot. That's before the Hollywood adopted. But anyway,
yeah. It is
um,
it is fantastic though, and it never gets easier, at least for me.
yeah, oh my God. That's something that I'm not excited to try so like today. But anyway, thank you so much, Dave, for coming on the show today and taking the time chatting with us.
It's my pleasure. It's fantastic. Thanks for spending the time with me too.
Thanks for tuning into Smart Venture Podcast. If you learned something from the episode or even just mildly tolerated me, please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. I promise I will keep bringing you more successful, insightful interviews and insider tips about startups. Remember, sharing is caring. So tell your friends to listen too, or enemies, I won't judge. Until next time, keep venturing smartly.